Vata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidusura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namah Devaya Tasmai Namah. So, let us chant. Let us just chant verses number 29 and 30 of the 6th chapter. Sarvabhutasthamaatmanam 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 Sarvabhutani Chatmani Sarvabhutani Chatmani Ikshate Yoga Yuktatma Sarvatra Samadarshanaha Yo Mam Pashyati Sarvatra Sarvam Chamai Pashyati Tasyaham na pranashyami Sachame na pranashyati. Okay. So, if you recall from last week, I had mentioned to you that there is an important verse that we will end the class with. This is the 6th chapter of Nididhyasanam, and this verse and the explanation of the verse will culminate in the vision that Sri Krishna wants us to see. So in that sense, I consider this to be an important class for that matter. So to start on that vision, the start of that explanation, let us go back to the last verse that we did a week ago in the class, starting with that, just a quick revision. And then we will explain this important verse number 29, which we are going to do today, which is Sarvabhutasthamaatmanam. So we'll spend the time doing today, and we will actually end up with a meditation itself, and that will finish our 6th chapter today. That's the plan. So the verse that we did last week was number 23. And verse number 23, as you know, said, Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga. So let me break it down. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam saha nischayena yokta yoktavyaha yogaha anirvinna chetasa. This was the verse. So if you recall, this was a technical verse. A technical verse that explains what is meant by yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. So this is an unusual explanation of the word yoga, but a very accurate explanation of the word yoga. So yoga means, which comes from the dhatu yuj, means to connect, to be connected to something is called yoga. Yuj means to connect. This is the classical definition of yoga. Here, Sri Krishna gives us the opposite meaning of yoga. To disconnect is the yoga. So this is what he says, tam vidyat. Tam vidyat means, may you know, dukkha samyoga viyogam. So viyoga means to disconnect. And he says the disconnection is defined as yoga. This is what the verse is saying. Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitam. So yoga samgitam means, samgitam means one which is precisely defined. Samgya means a technical definition, pure definition, not an opinion, but the truth. This is called samgya, samgitam. So yoga samgitam means that, hey Arjuna, may you understand that the disconnection here is the ultimate meaning of yoga. So this is a very interesting and a very strange way of explaining, but a truthful way of explaining. So then the next question comes up is, disconnection from what? So there he says, dukkha samyoga samgitam. Dukkha samyoga viyogam, sorry. Dukkha samyoga viyogam. So disconnected from a sense of problems. So we've been building it up to it, and this was the final definition. And then in the second line he says, Saha nishchayena yoktavyaha. May you be very clear about this in the definition. So here's the meaning. These are the words and so on. So, as you know, what our life's experiences are the following: that whenever we have an experience, it appears to be me. So for example, if you have an experience of sadness, for whatever reason, and by the way, this is not just bad experiences, good experiences also. Like for example, you say, I'm very excited. Good experience. I'm very excited. You know, you have your son or a daughter coming home after a long time, and you go to the airport and you ask somebody, says, so where are you? He says, I'm at San Francisco airport. I am very excited because my daughter is coming home. I haven't seen her for several months. Excitement. Or you can say, I'm very sad. Very sad because a friend of mine is leaving or whatever. Disappointments, sadness, excitement, all these are experiences. These experiences, when you say, those experiences are your experiences. That means me. That's me. Because if somebody says, who's excited? Say, I am excited. I am sad. So in the conclusion that I am sad, I am excited, you take the mental vritti. Vritti means the mental condition of sadness or whatever, to be you. To be you. You ask somebody, are you sure this is you? He says, what are you talking about? Of course. You're not excited, I'm excited. Because it's my daughter that is coming. Or my friend is moving away. It's me. And you basically do not inquire any further. This is me. This is what it is. And in a way, you are not wrong, but you are totally wrong. Why? Because picture it as an experience of a dream. In the dream, I tell you, this is what we are studying in the Mandukya Upanishad in the morning class, which is a remarkable Upanishad, a very advanced Upanishad. And an advanced Upanishad for the following reason, that it distills the wisdom of Vedanta into something you have to really, and it's an advanced one because you cannot distill it until you've gone through a lot of study. But at the end of that, the distillation is remarkable. What is the distillation? The distillation is that all of your experiences are really like roles in a movie. You are playing different roles in different movies. And the experiences are your experiences. So when you're playing a role of a movie as a heroine, these are your experiences. But in a way, they are not your experiences because you are different than your role. So this is what the Mandukya is pointing out. Na antah pragyam, na bahish pragyam, na ubayatah pragyam, na pragyanaganam, etc., etc. Turiyam alone is your nature. This is what it is pointing out. So there it is pointed out that you are playing roles in 3 movies throughout your life. This is what Mandukya is saying. One of them is a movie called a dream movie. Another one is the movie of your wakefulness, your jivatvam, as you are as a person, your relationships, your sons, daughters, friends, neighbors, etc. This is the second movie. And the third movie is a restful movie where you are in between roles, but you are still not home. Here Swami Paramarthananda from Chennai had given a beautiful example. I really like his example. So he said, we talked a little bit about this last week also. This is all relevant to what we are going to talk about. So this is a building up process. Follow me for a minute. So Swami Paramarthananda said that there is in each movie set, there is a thing called the green room. And the green room means where you take off your costumes and you are just yourself. So you are now taking, if your makeup, you take the makeup off. Clothes, if you are wearing some clothes as part of the role, you take the clothes off. You slip into your own natural clothes. And also, you now have an ability to be yourself. So being yourself could mean that you have a cell phone. You take your cell phone out and you see how many messages there are. It has nothing to do with the role. Because when the role, you are playing some kind of a role, there you cannot take your cell phone out. You are part of a script. And you're playing that role very well. But then when you get into the green room, there you become yourself, including, supposing, I'm just giving you one example, so supposing you invested in a stock, and now the movie shooting is over, and you want to check on the stock, how much did my stock do? Or there are messages from your spouse, or your daughter and son and friends, whatever it is, this is you. So this is the green room. Okay, this is an important, so follow my lead on this. So green room means your full appreciation of who you are. So Swami Dayanand used to give this example that supposing you are asked to play a role of a beggar, and throughout the movie you are a helpless beggar who is asking for some money and so on and so forth, and please give me something. You're supposed to show disappointments and so on and so forth, all kinds of things. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this or not, just a side joke on this. There is a play called Fiddler on the Roof. You may have heard about that. So in the Fiddler on the Roof, there is a scene, I still remember this, that there is a beggar, and the beggar is saying, alms for the poor, alms for the poor. And so this fellow's passing by, he ignores this beggar. And the beggar says, sir, alms for the poor. He says, don't bother me, I'm having a very bad day. So he says, you may be having a bad day, but what about me? I still remember this. So you're playing the role of a beggar. But in the green room, you may check on the stock. Oh my God, I made $10,000 today. That is wonderful. Good, I'm very rich. So you are rich in the green room, but in your role, you play a poor person. Okay? Going back to the Mandukya Upanishad, there are 3 movies that you're acting all the time. One is a dream movie, one is the Jagrat Avastha, and the third one is Sushupti Avastha. So there was a question from one of the students the other day, I remember this so well. She asked, I can understand the Swapna Avastha, this dream, and I can understand the Jagrat Avastha, which is waking. But when you have a deep sleep, that is not a movie. How can you call that a movie? So the answer to that is that in the deep sleep also you are not in the green room. What do you mean by that? That in the deep sleep I'm not in the green room? What it means is the fact that you are self-aware, self-existing, beyond death, unborn, is not appreciated by in the deep sleep. In the green room, when you know exactly who you are, there is a positive appreciation of who you are. This is called the Turiya Avastha. So, therefore, even the deep sleep is a kind of like a movie. It's a silent movie. There's not much going on, hardly anything going on, but you still do not have a positive appreciation for. So therefore they say that, not they say, I mean we say, that deep sleep, even though it is similar to freedom, at least you don't have any dukkha, but it is not a positive appreciation of who you are. This is an important thing to see. Anyway, going back to the fundamental aspect of what Mandukya is saying, that please see that your life consists of 3 movies where the experiences are there for you, but you are not the experience. You are fundamentally free from the agreement. So now going back to closing the loop on verse number 23, the technical definition of yoga is that when you feel you are sad, or that you are disappointed, or you are excited, it is a role that you are taking on. That's not you. You are different from your experiences. May you know this, and may you know this clearly. Don't take my word for it. Investigate it. This is why the dream example is a very good one, because in the dream example you are affected by all of your experiences. We often we come out of the dream and we say, oh, that was just a dream. But while you're in the dream, you're affected by it. And yet you are not affected by it. And as we have talked about it before, the design of the dream by Ishvara is a very important design. And this is where the Mandukya is such a beautiful Upanishad to study, because here's what Mandukya says. He says, listen, think of yourself while you were dreaming. And you are affected by it, but once you are out of it, the whole thing goes. This is step number 1. Step number 2 is to understand that your life as an individual is exactly like that. Exactly like that. It doesn't appear to be, it seems like going it on and on and on and on, but really speaking, it is exactly like a more elaborate dream. And it's going to end one day. While you are still alive, it's going to end. So, therefore, number 23 says that really speaking, if you understand that you as the Turiya, as the Atma, is unaffected by Dukkha Samyoga, you are not connected, you appear to be connected, but you are not connected. That understanding of disconnection is called Yoga Samgitam. That is called yoga. This much we had already done last week. I'm just giving you a new, sort of like a revision of that, but we had already done this. Now let us proceed further with some new material, which is an important material, and you should understand how that is. So this is in the form of number 29. Sarvabhutastham atmanam sarvabhutani cha atmani ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra sarvadarshana. This is the one. So here, one thing to see in the 9th chapter, there are 2 verses that are paradoxical. So Vedanta, paradox is a very important part of the study of Vedanta. Paradox means it doesn't seem to make sense. Like an example of that, Swami Tattvavidananda was very fond of saying this, that if you understand paradoxes in Vedanta, you've understood the subject matter. So an example in the Kathopanishad, this says, I am larger than the largest and smaller than the smallest. There will be other examples which will say, I, without going anywhere, move very fast. And I, moving very fast, cannot move. These are the type of paradoxical statements. So in the case of larger than the largest and smaller than the smallest, this statement represents that there is a level of reality which transcends the level of size. Like, for instance, one can say that the reality of an ocean, the reality of the ocean is the water. And the water is larger than the largest wave and smaller than the smallest bubble. So when you say larger than the largest, smaller than the smallest, it means it is the very content of both of them. It's a different reality altogether. And so similarly, this is a paradox. Such a paradox is given in the 9th chapter of the Gita, which I will now illustrate, which explains this important number 29, Sarvabhutastham Atmanam. Okay, so the 2 verses in the 9th chapter, very famous verses. So, the second line of 9th verse of chapter, in fact, let me recite both the verses and then I'll point out. In number 9.4 and 9.5, the verses are, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matsthani sarvabhutani nacha aham teshu avasthitaha. Is the number 4. Number 5 is Nachamatstani bhutani pashyame yogam aishwaram bhutabhrit nacha bhutasthaha mama atma bhutatmanaha. Bhuta bhavam or something like that. Anyway, those are the 2 verses. The key parts of them, which is a paradox, are the second line of number 4 and the first line of number 5. Matsthani sarva bhutani. He says that everything in the world is in me. Everything in the world is in me. Then in the very next verse he says, Nacha batsthani bhutani. Nothing is in me. This is the paradox. It's very much like larger than the largest, smaller than the smallest. Everything in the world is in me. The very next one he says, there is nothing in me. This we will now analyze. Okay, and so there, I will go back to 9.4 and 9.5 a bit later, but let me relate it to the verse that we are doing in number 6, number 29. Sarva bhutastham atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani. So what's the English translation of that is, as it is given in here. What I'm going to do is to take Swami Paramarthananda's definition. Just give me a second. Yeah. So the English translation of verse number 29 is Ikshate yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshana. One whose mind is disciplined through meditation. So that's the meaning of yoga yuktatma. So here, by the way, just to on the side, the word yukta atma refers to not the atma but the mind. Because the atma is not capable of moving. It's not capable of uniting or disuniting. It is what it is. It cannot do anything. But the mind, as the reflection of the atma, as we have seen before, really speaking, the human being, it's kind of like a reflection of the person standing in front of the mirror. So the jiva is a reflection of the atma. The jiva can move and can be united, has the understanding, non-understanding, but the atma is already free. This is the vision that we are creating. So yoga yuktatma means a disciplined mind, not the disciplined atma. The atma is always free. It cannot be disciplined or undisciplined. Anyway, so the meaning is one whose mind is disciplined through meditation. So this is the meaning of ikshate yoga yuktatma. Perceives the atma in all beings and all beings in the atma. He or she has the same vision everywhere. Sarvatra samadarshana means same vision everywhere. What is the vision? Vision is Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam Sarva Bhutani Cha Atmani. This is the vision. So let us pursue this one particular fact. And then we will see the opposite paradox, which is Nacha Bhutani, Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. So the first line of number 29 is similar to number 9.4, Matsthani Sarva Bhutani. Anyway, we're talking about all of this. Now let us look at the truth of it. Okay. So here's the situation. We know that there is a thing called Satyam, and there is a thing called Mithya. Satyam and Mithya. The definition of Satyam is one which independently exists. And the definition of Mithya is one that seems to exist, but it is dependent existence. It is not an independent existence. So, two examples of this. One example is that of a clay and a clay cup, or gold and a gold ornament, similar example. In those examples, comparatively, relatively, clay is the Satyam. And the cup is Mithya. Why do we say that? Because the cupness does not have an independent existence away from the clay. In fact, it is not an independent noun as clay is. When you say an independent noun, means that it should have its own property away from, like you say, a table and a chair. They are completely separate from each other. But a cup does not have an independent noun. Why? Why doesn't it have it? Because the color of the cup is the color of the clay. The weight of the cup is the weight of the clay. Everything is borrowed from the clay. All you have is some kind of a name and form, Namarupa. But otherwise there is no substantive existence for the cup. It is just a fluffy kind of a thing. Clay is the reality. This is one example. Another example is you yourself looking at your reflection in the mirror. There, you are the Satyam and your reflection is Mithya. Very interesting Mithya, because the reflection looks very much like you. But it is not you. If you have to apply makeup, you apply it to yourself, not to your reflection. If you are a woman and you want to put lipstick, you cannot go to the mirror and put the lipstick on that person. Or if you have, unlike me, if you have lots of hair, if you want to comb your hair, you cannot comb the hair of your reflection. Big difference, even though it looks like it. And in fact, you have to do things for yourselves by looking at your reflection. So the reflection is useful, has some functionality. Just like, for example, you cannot drink hot tea from clay, but you can drink hot tea from a cup. So the cup has some functionality, but there's no independent existence. It has to depend on it. Similarly, even though the reflection looks real, and in fact I'm happy that it gives me an accurate representation of who I am, but it doesn't exist by itself. It's not as though you move away and your reflection is still there. No. Totally dependent on it. This is how the whole creation by Ishvara is made. And in fact, one can say that really speaking, all experiences are mithya. All experiences. So follow this. This is an important thing to see. When you say all experiences, means everything that you see, you feel, you touch, you smell, are mithya. How? How can you say it is mithya? Because the definition of mithya is it relies on something else for its existence. Isn't it? That's the pure definition of, just like you said, yoga samgitam. Here you can say mithya samgitam. The purest definition of mithya is that it cannot exist on its own. It must rely on something else, isn't it? So if you can ask me that if you're telling me that all experiences are mithya, who does it rely on? Because it must rely on something. It must be, it cannot independently exist. Yes. This is the meaning of Sarvabhutastham What it means is everything depends on consciousness. Everything depends on me, I, the consciousness. When I say I, the consciousness, I don't mean I, the jiva. Like, for example, you say that the sun depends on me. It looks ridiculous. The sun cannot depend on me. But in that ridiculousness, I make the mistake that I take me to be a jiva, a functioning jiva. No. But when you say the sun depends on consciousness, think about it. There is no sun except the sun consciousness. That's how the sun is also mithya. Consciousness alone is the satya. All experiences, you just imagine whether your eyes closed or your eyes open, you will find that consciousness is always there. Things may or may not be there, but consciousness is always there. And all existence of things require this Atma. An Atma representing Satchit Ananda to be always there. Just think about it. You cannot disprove this. This is a very important thing. So therefore, you cannot, just like a cup cannot be without a clay, or an ornament cannot be without a metallic substance like gold, or a reflection of a human being cannot be without a human being. No experience is possible without the Atma. And the Atma meanings your sense of I am. I know. I am and I know. This fact is behind all experiences. But what happens is that even though my experiences are mithya, meaning what? See, if I am the clay, I can enjoy the fact that I can be a cup. But I am not limited to being a cup. If the cup breaks, I'm a little bit sorry, but not very sorry. Because I know that I can be remade into a cup, in the case of this example of clay. So the cupness is very, very vulnerable, very fragile. But the clay is not. Very similarly too is the fact that, but if the clay, or the example that we always take, if the wave of the ocean doesn't understand that I am water, then I am very vulnerable. Then I am disappearing, I've got a lot of problems, I don't have long to live, I'm going to disappear. But if it understands that I am the water, then it enjoys the fact that I am either a wave or not a wave. So similarly, I do not bother about my experiences if I know that my experiences are mithya depending on me. This is what is said in the first line of the verse number 29. Now look at it again. It says, Sarva Bhutastham Atmanam. Sarva Bhutani cha Atmani. He says that I am in all things in the world. Any experience that you have, good or bad, you are there. And all experiences are in you. They arise out of you, they stay with you, and they disappear back in you. Okay? Now, let us look at the paradoxical statement. Let's now move into, because verse number 29 only gives you one half of it, right? And we'll come back to it and close it. But it only gives you one half. This other half, which is the paradoxical second half, is given in the verse number 9.4 and 9.5. What does it say again? Now we're given this explanation. So let's start with the second line of verse number 994. Verse number 4. Matsthani sarvabhutani. They are, all things are in me. Then the second part of the second line is Nacha aham teshu avasthita. Even though everything is in me, I am not in them. And let me suspend explaining this until I also cover the first line of the second verse. Nacha matsthani bhutani. First he says, Matsthani sarva bhutani. And then he contradicts himself by saying, Nacha matsthani bhutani. This is very strange. Complete paradox. That everything is in me. And then he says, nothing is in me. What is the truth about this? So the truth is, really speaking, that here the dream example is perhaps the best one to illustrate this. Is a dream experience possible without you, the awareful being? Is not the dream made up of you, the awareness? Don't you need awareness to be the ingredient? The ingredient, the very substance of the dream. The dream is nothing but an awareful experience. If you have no dream, if just going back to it again, so the very explanation, the very content of the dream is nothing but you, the awareness. So this is the meaning of matsthani sarva bhutani. So in the case of a dream, and so as we say in the Mandukya Upanishad also, that the entire experience of life is like a dream. It is a dream. But when we say like a dream, it is like the dream that comes and goes. Here also this will go. It will go. It's not going to stick to you. That's why we go back to the technical word, dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samyitam. It's not going to stick. It is not sticking to you. Anyway, going back to this, matsthani sarva bhutani means that all dreams are in you, isn't it? Can you have a dream without you being there? And then the second part of the second one, nacha aham teshu avastita. You, the waking person, are you stuck with a dream? No. It is a phenomena that comes and goes. And even though dream is not possible without you, but you are separate from the dream. See, this is the very interesting creation. Ishvara's creation is just absolutely mind-boggling. How is he able to create this whole thing without really a creation? How can you have a big to do with the dream without being affected by it. It's just an amazing thing. So here, going back to the content of this, Matsthani Sarvabhutani. Everything is in me. And same thing on this number 29. Sarvabhutam Bhutastham Atmanam. Then comes the paradoxical opposite statement. Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. Does the dream remain? Is it in you? Is it a fundamental part of you? No. It comes and goes, leaving absolutely no trace of it in you. And then Krishna, the Ishvara, pats himself in the back a little bit. He says, Pashyame yogam aishwaryam. He says, look at my magic, how my magic is. This is Ishvara saying, this is how I am a magician. That it appears that all of your experiences are yours, but they are not yours if you understand how the phenomena of life works. You, the Atma, the Turiya, has nothing to do with your experiences. And the more you inquire into it, you find, wow, this is just like a dream, has no effect on me. And this is why it is possible, the whole world, in the deep sleep state, the one where you're not in the green room, you don't quite appreciate yourself, but just the deep sleep allows you to escape samsara. This is the beautiful, beautiful thing of it. If samsara was real, you'll never be able to escape it. But you can. For a long time in the evening, night, no matter what happens, even if you have a body problem, if you have a cut or a burn, it doesn't affect you. Gone. And Ishvara, what an interesting thing he has created. Supposing you murdered some people during the day. You see these sad stories of somebody killing their own family. 3 or 4 people. I just saw that wife and 2 children somebody killed. Supposing, that person, he may have a hard time going to sleep, but once he sleeps, he is no longer a murderer. What an amazing thing. This is how the reality comes up. So anyway, Nacha Matsthani Bhutani. Nacha Matsthani Bhutani means the dream does not leave any traces. Supposing you're dreaming that you are sitting out in the sun and you got sunburnt. As soon as you wake up, the sunburn is gone. You don't have to rub your hands and say, oh, what happened to my sunburn? It doesn't touch you at all. So this is the paradox that I need to understand fully and to grasp it. And to see that this is my objective. This is what I have to see. This is the truth. It looks very strange that how can I be not affected by my experiences? But through Nididhyasanam and so on, it is very possible that slowly I understand. So that's the difference. The difference is that in the case of a dream, the instant the dream finishes, you are out of it. In the case of Atma Jnanam, Brahmanishta, all the things we talk about, Jnana Nishtha, the dreams grows slowly, but it will go. It will go. Because it does have no substance to it. And so then what happens is that you are just basically dealing with things on a day-to-day basis as needed, but your own self-appreciation of who you are is totally different. So in effect, in Swami Paramarthananda's, you enter the green room of your own reality. Your own reality is that you are a free person who was never born. Not possible for you to die. You're not made up of parts that can be pulled apart. And you are Swatasiddha. You are self-existing. You don't need anything. Self-aware. Swayamvit. And you are the very source of joy. This is the appreciation of yourself that you will see in the green room of the teaching of Vedanta. This will happen. And if you understand that, then you can go back to the play and not be bamboozled by the fact that you are playing a beggar in the play. This will happen. This is the promise of Vedanta. That your self-awareness of who you are will stay with you to a point where your experiences of life become trivial. Nothing will bother you. And if you have to cry because your friend met an accident or something like this, somebody passed away, cry. Not an issue. It is very natural. Deep down below you will say, I cannot be killed. I cannot die. Because your understanding is full and it is very clear. And so this is what Nishchayena, where was the word Nishchayena? No, that was number 23. In number 23 it said, Tam vidyat dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga samgitem saha nishchayena yoktavya. You have to ascertain with your own thinking. Follow the truth and you will see that that is in fact the case. So this is the meaning of nididhyasanam. And this needs to be clear through your own logic, your own thinking. And in this sense, this paradox is a very important one. Nacha matsthani sarvabhutani, nacha motsthani sarvabhutani, pashyame yogam aishwaryam. So this is the essence of the 6th chapter. And with that we close. And so perhaps we can do a very short meditation to finish off. Om. In meditation, I see the distinction between Atma and Anatma. The distinction between Satyam and Mithya. Between the original and the copy. Like a person standing in front of a mirror, there are apparently two entities but really one entity alone. The second entity, that being the reflection in the mirror, even though it looks like me, it is not me. Very similar to that is I, the Atma, and my reflection in the mind as a jiva. A jiva that consists of a specific body and mind complex. So the person that I take myself to be is actually my reflection. And even though it looks very much like me, it is not me. While the reflection is at the mercy of a number of things, light, movement of the reflecting surface, cleanliness, and so on. Similarly, myself, my body and mind complex is a function of various factors, even though that is dependent, but I am not. I, the Atma, is independent of all these factors. I meditate upon these two factors, I, the Jivatma, and I, the Jiva, where the Jiva, the limited person that I take myself to be, is not separate from the Atma. There is no duality, because one is simply a reflection of the other. I pray to Ishvara to make my meditation more and more effective in seeing this distinction. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So we complete the 6th chapter, and I think based on our discussions, I've decided that we're going to try this new format, and I think some of you may have seen this. Please take, did you have a copy of this? Yeah, please take and then circulate it to others. I wrote this flyer. So this is how it will work. Let me just go into that a little bit. So I thought that we will make this into a kind of like a limited course. So your feedback was that we should continue with the with the study of Gita, but perhaps my feeling was to make it in a way where it becomes a specific course. And so I decided that we're going to do this in 16 weeks. Chapter number 7 will continue, but in a 16-week course. And I had made a paper on the core tenets of Hinduism, which I had and I'm going to polish it off, because we are often asked by people, what is Hinduism? What do you mean by it? How would you explain it to friends? And so this is an attempt to kind of summarize the main points of that. So I thought that we would start the course, and backing off for a little while in discussing with Ramananji also, that perhaps we may want to introduce some new students to Vedanta, but you cannot jump in, in the 7th chapter, so you have to give them some idea about it. And so what I'm hoping is that we can have some new people introduced to the topic. And so the first 2 classes will be just the core tenets of Hinduism, and then I will cover Bhagavad Gita's first 6 chapters in a form of a conceptual recap of what we have done, the Karma Yoga, the Jnana Yoga, etc., all of this, in about 3 classes. Then we will devote 10 classes. So the chapter number 7 is a short chapter, it's only 30 verses. So I'm hoping that we can do it conceptually instead of going through individually each verse, as we have been doing. I think that works out better. So do that in 10 classes. I thought that in the end we will have and while we are doing the 10 classes, or really the 15 classes, I'll point out some of the key things that you should pay particular attention to. And then I will quiz you on those important points. So make sure it will be a closed book exam in the class itself, where you will have a chance to see whether you got some of the important points or not. And I'll send you an evaluation at the end of that so that you get an idea of where you did that. Anyway, that's what I'm thinking of in terms of a course. So what I would say is that if you do have some friends or acquaintances or neighbors or something that would like to get an introduction to Hinduism and do it in a very structured manner, then this might be a good course to do that. And so let us see how it goes, and we'll see. So I printed quite a few of these, and we will send this out when we will give it to Swami Viditatmanandas when the talks come also, and maybe put some in the temples or something like that. I don't know, we'll see. So a new experiment of a class, and let's see how that goes.
Can I put some of these in YMCA?
Please do. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Just take as many as you like. We have quite a few of these.
2 or 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not sure how they're going to take it.
Yeah, just, who knows. It's all right. Any other feedback or questions? Right. If not, good. That one part is finished, and we'll start a new one. Let us see. Now I'd like to get registrations from people so that it is some kind of a commitment to it, instead of just being a few. And we'll continue with the online broadcasting it as well. So let us hope that. Okay, all right, all the best.
There are even people from Germany that are listening to the
Uh-huh.
talks. You don't know that, so you think they're not registered. But I encourage them to write to you when it is registered.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Excellent class,
Good,
as always.
Excellent, thank you.
About 3 weeks ago, I left a check in an envelope here on your desk. I didn't talk to you or anything, I just left it in.
I will double check to make sure that I have it.
It was just a empty envelope, window envelope, and I had not written in
I
letters.
think I have it. I
Okay.
may not have cashed it yet,
Oh, okay, so,
deposited
okay, you
it
have
yet,
it, okay.
but I do remember seeing
Yeah,
something.
because
You always give once in a while, so I don't know whether it was, so this was recent that you gave about?
About 3 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks.
I'll look into it, I'll
Yeah.
make sure.
I left it here and you were busy, so I
No,
left
no, I
that
know,
and
you
forgot
always
it.
do that, I
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Great,
you.
thank you. Namaste.
We are from Kansas City.
I think somebody had mentioned it to
Yeah.
me, I think Zarina,
Yeah.
that you were
Yeah.
going to, you may come,
Yeah.
yes.
I forgot to send you the email. She told me that,
Uh-huh.
but yesterday then it was late, so I
No
didn't.
problems, no problem, happy you're here.
Yeah. We are visiting to our son.
Yeah, that's what Zarina had told me.
We'll mention about this classes. We are here about 4 weeks,
Uh-huh.
so we'll try to come
Okay,
whenever we are here.
okay, that'd be good.
So whatever we can listen, it's
Yeah, that'd be
interesting.
wonderful. So you're from Kansas City itself?
Kansas City. Yeah, I have two sons. One is here,
Uh-huh,
other one in Kansas with us.
I see.
So